On a cold morning in 41 AD, Emperor Caligula was stabbed 30 times in a palace corridor. His wife and daughter were also killed. Within the hour, his uncle Claudius was hiding behind a curtain. The men who found him and made him emperor on the spot were the same men who'd just done the stabbing. Here's what nobody explains: why did they hide one emperor and kill another on the same morning? That question matters because the Praetorian Guard didn't just kill Caligula. They killed 13 emperors across 3 centuries. They auctioned the Roman throne to the highest bidder. They ran protection rackets on the most powerful men on earth. And they did it all while being officially classified as the emperor's personal bodyguard. Here's what most people assume: the Praetorians were a corrupt institution that slowly rotted. That's wrong. Augustus created them in 27 BC, knowing exactly what concentrated armed power near a throne would eventually do. He'd spent 17 years watching it happen. He built the weapon anyway. That decision haunted Rome for 300 years. Augustus kept the guard deliberately scattered at first, 3 cohorts in Rome, the rest in nearby towns. He understood optics. A visible army in the capital looked like tyranny. An invisible army in the capital was just called security. When Tiberius finally consolidated them into one barracks in 23 AD, the power shift was immediate and irreversible. The Castra Praetoria, the Praetorian barracks, sat on the northeastern edge of Rome. 10,000 soldiers. 3 times the pay of regular legionaries. The best weapons, the best equipment, the shortest service term. Augustus had essentially created a second government. One that wore armor and answered to whoever could afford their loyalty. The Praetorian prefect, the guard's commander, became the second most powerful position in Rome. Not officially. Not on any legal document. But every emperor understood it. Sejanus, prefect under Tiberius, ran the empire for nearly a decade while the emperor hid on the island of Capri. He nearly pulled off history's first recorded deep state coup. Sejanus was brilliant. He isolated Tiberius from his family, eliminated rivals through fabricated treason charges, and got himself engaged to the emperor's granddaughter. He was weeks from seizing the throne when Tiberius, from Capri, sent a single letter to the Senate. Sejanus was arrested mid-session and strangled in prison that same afternoon. Here's the pattern interrupt nobody teaches you. After Sejanus died, Tiberius executed his children, including his prepubescent daughter, because Roman law technically prohibited executing virgins. So they raped her first. The Praetorians carried out that order too. The same unit that protected emperors was the instrument of their most grotesque commands. They didn't just kill the bad emperors. They served the bad ones completely. Caligula understood this dynamic better than most emperors. He courted the guard obsessively: donatives, gifts, personal attention. He gave every soldier a bonus of 2,000 sesterces when he took power. Then he kept raising the price. By the end of his reign, the guard had come to expect payment for loyalty as a standard transaction, not an exception. The men who killed Caligula weren't rogue soldiers. Cassius Chaerea, the officer who struck first, had a personal grudge. Caligula mocked his high-pitched voice and made him recite obscene watchwords. But the conspiracy was organized, deliberate, and included senior officers and senators. The Praetorians didn't snap. They planned. Which brings us back to Claudius behind that curtain. The guard found him, declared him emperor, and carried him to the barracks on their shoulders. The Senate was furious. They briefly considered restoring the Republic. The Praetorians informed them that the Republic was not currently available. Claudius gave every soldier 15,000 sesterces. The Senate acquiesced. This set a precedent so dangerous that historians gave it its own Latin name, donativum. Every emperor who followed would be expected to pay the guard upon accession. Not as a gift. As a fee. The throne of the greatest empire in human history now had an unofficial cover charge payable to the men holding the swords. Nero's fall in 68 AD exposed exactly how transactional this had become. When the legions in Spain and Gaul revolted, the Praetorians didn't fight for Nero. They waited to see who would win, then declared for Galba, the general offering better terms. Nero fled Rome alone and died by his own hand, reportedly sobbing that the world was losing a great artist. Galba lasted 3 months. He made one fatal error: he refused to pay the donativum. His exact words, recorded by Tacitus, were, "I Levi soldiers, I do not buy them." The Praetorians found that philosophical position unconvincing. They switched support to Otho, dragged Galba into the forum, and dismembered him in public. His head was carried through Rome on a pole. Now here's what should disturb you. Otho, who ordered Galba's murder, was considered one of the more decent emperors of the period. Ancient sources describe him as generous, reform-minded, genuinely mourned when he died. The system had reached the point where a man could commission public dismemberment and still be the good option. The Guard hadn't corrupted Rome's emperors. They'd redefined what corruption meant. The year of the 4 emperors, 69 AD, proved the Praetorians' power was now structural, not incidental. 4 men held the throne in 12 months. The Guard backed 2 of them, abandoned 1, and watched the 4th, Vespasian, arrive with enough legions that their opinion stopped mattering temporarily. Temporarily is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Under the good emperors, Trajan, Hadrian, Marcus Aurelius, the Guard was controlled but never disbanded. Every ruler understood why. Disbanding the Praetorians meant the next man who wanted the throne would simply recruit a new personal army. Better to keep the existing one and manage it carefully. The problem was that careful management required constant bribery. Commodus, the emperor who thought he was Hercules reincarnated, who fought in the gladiatorial arena, who renamed Rome after himself, was strangled in his bath in 192 AD. Not by the Guard. By his wrestling partner, at the request of his mistress and his chamberlain. The Guard, notably, did nothing to stop it. Inaction was also a political choice. The Guard replaced Commodus with Pertinax, a respected general, genuinely popular, aggressively anti-corruption. He was exactly what Rome needed. He lasted 87 days. The Praetorians murdered him because he tried to restore military discipline and reduce their privileges. Pertinax reportedly walked toward the soldiers with his hands raised when they came for him. He was stabbed anyway. Then came the moment that shocked even jaded Roman historians. The Praetorians went to the barracks wall and auctioned the empire publicly. 2 men bid, Titus Flavius Sulpicianus and Didius Julianus. They haggled back and forth over the wall, raising offers by 1,250 sesterces per soldier at a time. Julianus won at 25,000. He was emperor by nightfall. Rome had been sold in an afternoon. Here's the question historians genuinely cannot answer: did the Praetorians understand what they were doing to Rome? Every action suggests rational self-interest, higher pay, better conditions, more power. But collectively, they were dismantling the stability that made Roman power worth controlling. Were they strategically brilliant or institutionally suicidal? 3 centuries of consistent behavior and we still don't know if they had a plan. The most disturbing implication isn't the murders. It's the arithmetic. 13 emperors killed by their own Guard over roughly 275 years. Dozens more controlled, manipulated, or installed by them. The Roman Empire, the administrative, legal, and military framework that shaped Western civilization, was functionally governed for most of its existence by the preferences of 10,000 soldiers whose primary institutional goal was their own enrichment. So, why did they hide Claudius and kill Caligula on the same morning? Because Caligula had become unpredictable and personally humiliating to senior officers. Claudius was harmless, controllable, and grateful. They weren't protecting Rome. They weren't even protecting the institution of the emperor. They were optimizing their own position. The same morning. The same hands. 2 completely opposite acts serving one identical interest. On a cold morning in 41 AD, the men who killed Caligula found Claudius behind a curtain and made him emperor on the spot. We used to call that the Guard doing their job, choosing the stable option, keeping Rome intact. Now you know what they were actually doing. They weren't protecting the emperor. They were selecting one. They always were.